Hey everyone, this is Pat Brown. Thanks for checking out my video about the Smoketown Airport Crit. This happened, I believe, around May 11th of 2019. So I've been sitting on this footage for a little bit, but um, but I think it's a really interesting race, especially how it played out with the slight crosswind. So we just passed the start finish line. It's a little bit odd, but they did kind of like a rollout lap, and so I just cut through that a little bit. But when they do like kind of like a free lap or rollout lap to start off, I find people are still kind of fighting for position because once we actually get started going, I find typically people go right off the gun pretty quick, just like what you'd think you'd see at the beginning of a Tour de France stage. So so you can see the course, fairly simple, hot dog shape. This one's the sharp 180, and then the other side is a little bit more wide of a 180 that we complete. A little bit of an uphill here to finish on the course. I would say it's probably around 500 or so meters from the finish. After you get done with that turn, maybe even a touch more. You can see that's about 400 meters there to the finish here. So still just kind of jockeying for position here, even before the start, and we'll get started here soon. So this is the Cat 3 field. So this is my first full season as a Cat 3 cyclist in 2019. This is a Cat 3 field only. I believe there's around 23 or so people who finished the race and a few DNFs, but a relatively smaller size field. And so we're about to cross the start finish line here in a few seconds, just so you can have a little bit of a better idea, so that people really start going from the gun, which is not quite as typical, at least from what I thought from the category 4-5s the year prior. But regardless, positioning's key, um, and so we'll kind of see how it plays out. With this race, it actually started out a little bit faster than what I was expecting. So people going right off the line and not doing like a little attack just to see if you can get away and then shutting it right down. There were actually quite a few people who were really committed to this first move. And you can see we're really strung out. Even gaps are starting now, and we're only, a minute or less into the actual race. And I think this is where I make my first mistake. You can see there's a guy, the green guy, Kelly Benefits, whom we're just passing now. Definitely looks more of like a sprinter type, and he was definitely not chasing down the 5 or 6 guys that are up the road. And so that means that all the rest of us have to make up some, that slack in order to all get back on pace. So we can see that there are 5 guys ahead, and then we're just making uh, reconnecting here. Still quite spread out, still a lot of people really on the gas. And then coming out of that hairpin, um, there's always a big surge, and you'll see that every lap. But we're cooking for going uphill. We're going about 26 miles an hour, which is pretty solid, since we're going at probably 35 going down the other way, which is slightly downhill. And I don't know if it was just me not being used to the Cat 3 style racing, being I was relatively new to it. There were only 2 races earlier this year uh, that were Cat 3 specifically, but it seemed like this was a lot more serious of a move than what I would have ever thought it was going to be. And you can see, it looks like some people are chasing. We're still pretty strung out, but and I guess at the moment I thought, well, we're strung out. Typically, Cat 4-5s all result almost always in a field sprint, because typically, at least in my experience, all the 4-5s are kind of just racing for themselves. So they're going to chase down teammates. They're going to basically not let anyone get up the road because they see that as losing rather than themselves trying to get up the road and create a gap. So you can see we're kind of chasing here. I'm trying to save some energy, even with this surge here. And that's kind of how the rest of the little bit of this part of the race goes. Just like not really a very well organized chase effort, which is kind of frustrating since there's, I believe right now there are 5 guys up the road. So it's a little bit frustrating thinking that we have a chance to have everything come back together for a field sprint, which just happened not to be. So you can see there's one guy way off the front, and then there's 4 riders whom we're reaching who are reaching up. It didn't quite make a good turn there. Still feeling out the course. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pre-ride this morning. So you can see we're making up. We're bridging across. Well, we're reabsorbing rather these riders here. So now there's 4 up the road, and so the crosswind you can see there's. I'm not quite up with those riders. The crosswind here is a right to left wind. So basically, if you're on the right side of the road, you'll be in the draft if you're just back to the left. So I'm getting a good draft right at this moment. And so what I was trying to do on the left was try to have people pull through to do some work to bring back the rest of the guys. Um, because I had just done some work on the front and I was hoping to save my legs hopefully for the sprint that I was imagining would happen later. But it just doesn't happen to be. I mean, my heart rate's definitely up there, which shows that I've definitely been putting in some good work, and I've been we've been on the gas here, but it seems like everyone kind of fans out, and then we just start putting the gas back on, um, and so we can see that's kind of that stop and go for a while now. This is later that lap, and this is when I just decide to go, and hopefully some people strong will come with me after the surge. Uh, that's what I was hoping at the time because I know I'm definitely not typically a rider who'll do a solo bridge and then make it up to the breakaway. Just because my VO2 max typically isn't quite on par with a lot of other riders at the specific levels that I'm racing. But so I'm fast forwarding here, so you can see I'm putting in a big effort here. Heart rate's getting up above 190, 191, 192, and so I see that there's uh, I saw that we were pretty strung out behind me. I had a little bit of a gap, and then I also had another rider who actually came back from the initial break that will be coming alongside me here, I believe. And so we were actually separated from the field. So we were a chasing group of 2, and so hopefully I believe it'll show that it catches me right about now. And so we ended up working together for a few laps. We traded off turns, really working at the limit. Now my heart rate's up to 194, and for reference, my max is later that season was about 206. So we're working hard, but going up that uphill was tough, and that seemed to kind of wear on us. So a little bit later in the race, it was still just us 2. You can see the pack is pretty well lined out on the left. It's tough to see without with the camera shaking, but we brought back one Kelly Benefits rider, so now there's only a few riders ahead of us, but they still have a pretty sizable gap. Um, but unfortunately, the rest of the pack was motivated enough to come chase us, but not motivated enough here to actually try to bring back the initial breakaway, which is unfortunate. So at this point, if you want to take a look, keep an eye on kind of the left of the screen because you'll be able to see the car coming through, which will give us kind of an idea on how far ahead the lead riders are and where they are, which was, from what I thought at the beginning of the race, that would be excellent because we'd be able to see if there's anyone up the road, exactly how far up the road they are, and then we'd be able to bring them back, very easily because we know exactly how much time we have left, and also how many guys, it would take to bring him back. But it just seemed like the group wasn't very motivated to bring anything back, and then it just happened to be a little bit later in the race. Just it seemed like a little bit too late. But so we're just probably about a third of the way through, and and it's just a lot of kind of getting lined out a little bit, working hard. We're going 23 miles an hour, so not working exceedingly hard, but some people are putting in some digs. But then typically when we get up to the top, the start finish where things level out and start to come back down, uh, people are very well, they just don't really want to work. So you saw there we all kind of fanned out, and we're still kind of fanned out. So that's with 2 laps to go here. So we have 2 laps to go. Um, we have four guys up the road, and you can see one guy tries to go for a flyer here. So we're pretty lined out. I basically the 4 guys who are up the road, they're they're not going to be caught at this point. There's just not enough road left. 2 laps isn't going to be enough to bring them back. And also, there's just not, even if there was enough time, I don't think that there was enough motivation, which is difficult for me because I was really hoping it'd come down to a sprint because that's a little bit more of my wheelhouse. So you can see we're all just kind of jockeying for position, and we're with 1 lap to go here. So I have a few riders in front of me, which I think will be perfect because hopefully some of them will take up the pace setting. You can see that we caught that one rider. He's cooked from trying to get away here, and so now it's just time to jockey for position. Looks like for the field sprint, we have 5 guys in front of me now, and I feel like I make a little bit of a mistake here coming up. So another guy fills in, which I think is okay at this point. But then we get a little bit strung out, and we start picking up the speed a little bit here at 28 miles an hour, and I lose the wheel a little bit. And now you think the wind's going to be the opposite way from the crosswind. So right now it's coming from the left to right. So I'm trying to kind of stay behind a little bit to the right, and I'm hoping he's going to fill in. But then the guy in the orange just doesn't fill in, and it looks like the guy who's on the front now is picking up the pace. So so here's the situation. There's four people off the road. We're not going to catch them. And then there are these riders. There's one rider there, and then there are 4 in front of me, not including that one lead rider. And so I know basically because my poor positioning and technique through that last turn here, I basically just have to go with 500 meters. There's 400 meters here. Trying to get a little bit of the draft as I'm accelerating up in the saddle and then accelerate around out of the saddle. And then I can see that guy's cooked, so there's 2 other guys in front of me for the field sprint. There's about 200 meters left, and I just my legs are burning, my lungs are burning. I'm almost set here. It kind of levels out, so I have to click it into one more gear, and then accelerate again. And it was just enough to get that guy in the line. It looked like he kind of looked and turned at me. I actually thought that the finish line was a few meters before the actual finish line, but it ended up that I had a few more meters to make that final kick, and I ended up with fifth. And with the field sprint. Um, so I was pretty happy with that. It wasn't uh, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for in the sprint, but it was definitely great to uh, get some experience in the Cat threes, and just seeing that it's not always going to work out as planned, which was hopefully going to be a sprint, and so now I'll have to try to be a little bit more aggressive kind of as the season continues. All right. Well, thanks for watching with me, and we'll catch you next time.